I'm Garrett Mitchell, 29, and 3 years ago my uncle threw me out of his house for being a tech support loser. He said no nephew of his would waste their potential answering phones. What he didn't know was that job would lead me to discover a critical security vulnerability that changed everything. Today, I run a cybersecurity company valued at over $1 billion. Life has a funny way of proving people wrong. Before I tell you how I went from family disappointment to Forbes 30 under 30, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you enjoy stories of sweet redemption. I grew up in a family obsessed with appearances and prestigious career paths. My Uncle Wesley was the self-appointed patriarch after my grandparents passed away. He made his fortune in commercial real estate, and his opinion carried weight at every family gathering. His wife, my Aunt Barbara, was equally status-conscious, constantly comparing everyone's achievements at their lavish dinner parties in their Boston mansion. From an early age, I knew what was expected of me. My cousins were being groomed for careers in law, medicine, and finance. Respectable professions, as Uncle Wesley called them. My parents weren't quite as wealthy as him, but they still expected me to follow a similar path. The problem was, I fell in love with computers when I was 10. My parents bought our first desktop computer, and instead of just playing games, I became fascinated with how it worked. By 12, I was taking apart and rebuilding computers. By 14, I had taught myself basic coding. My bedroom became a graveyard of computer parts and programming books. It's just a phase, my mother would tell relatives when they asked about my future. He'll grow out of it and focus on something practical. But I didn't grow out of it. When it came time for college applications, I only applied to schools with strong computer science programs. Much to my parents' dismay. Computer science? Uncle Wesley scoffed at Thanksgiving dinner my senior year of high school. What kind of career is that? You'll end up working in some basement fixing printers. I tried explaining the vast opportunities in tech, especially in cybersecurity, which had become my passion. There's a huge shortage of qualified people in this field, I explained. Companies are desperate for experts who can protect their data. My uncle waved his hand dismissively. Doctors and lawyers will always be in demand, and they command respect. Nobody respects the IT guy. Despite the family pressure, I enrolled at MIT for computer science. My parents reluctantly paid my tuition, hoping I'd switch majors to something sensible, like business or engineering. But I thrived in the computer science program, particularly in courses focused on network security and ethical hacking. During my sophomore year, I met Ryan Thompson at a hackathon. We connected immediately over our shared interest in cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Ryan came from a completely different background. His parents were teachers who supported his passion for technology from day one. You're lucky, I told him one night as we coded in our dorm. My family thinks I'm wasting my potential. Maybe you need to show them what real potential looks like, Ryan replied, not looking up from his screen. That conversation planted a seed. I started thinking about how I could prove my family wrong, not just by getting a good job but by creating something revolutionary. By junior year, Ryan and I were developing small security applications on the side while maintaining our coursework. We entered several competitions and even won a minor cybersecurity challenge sponsored by a tech company. The prize was only $5,000, but it validated our skills and approach. When I excitedly shared the news with my family during spring break, my uncle's response was predictable. That's nice, Garrett, he said with that condescending smile I'd grown to hate. But when are you going to start preparing for a real career? Your cousin Douglas is already interning at Goldman Sachs. I bit my tongue and reminded myself that one day I'd prove him wrong. I just didn't know how yet. When I graduated from MIT in 2018, the economy was in a strange place. Despite my degree from a prestigious university, the specific cybersecurity positions I wanted were competitive and often required experience I didn't have. I applied to dozens of security analyst positions but kept hearing the same response. Your technical skills are impressive, but we're looking for someone with more experience. After 3 months of job hunting and with student loans looming, I finally got an offer, but not what I'd expected. A small cybersecurity firm called SecureNet offered me a position in their technical support department. The salary was modest, but they had an interesting client list and were doing innovative work in threat detection. Tech support? That's what you're settling for with an MIT degree? My father asked when I told him about the job. It's a foot in the door, I explained. I'll be working directly with their security products, learning how they function in real-world environments, and understanding what kinds of problems customers face. What I didn't tell my parents was that I had specifically asked the hiring manager if I could review code during downtime. He had agreed, saying they often had tech support staff transition to development or security analysis roles after learning the products thoroughly. I started the job with enthusiasm, absorbing everything I could about their security architecture. Within months, I was the go-to person for troubleshooting complex security implementation issues. Customers would specifically ask for me because I didn't just fix their immediate problems, I helped them understand how to prevent future issues. When Thanksgiving rolled around that year, I went home with mixed feelings. I was learning valuable skills but dreaded facing my family's judgment. Sure enough, the interrogation began almost immediately at Uncle Wesley's annual dinner. So, Garrett, my uncle began, swirling his expensive scotch. Tell everyone about this job of yours. What exactly do you do all day? I tried to explain the technical nature of my support role and how it was teaching me about real-world security vulnerabilities, but I could see his eyes glazing over. So you answer phones? He interrupted. My nephew, the MIT graduate, takes customer service calls. The table went quiet. My cousin Douglas smirked. It's more complicated than that, I defended. I'm learning how sophisticated attacks work by seeing how they affect actual systems. Just last week, I helped a financial company recover from a ransomware attempt that their standard security didn't catch. Wouldn't you rather be the person designing the security systems instead of just fixing them when they break? My Aunt Barbara asked, not unkindly but with clear disappointment. That's the goal, I said. But understanding how they fail in practice is invaluable knowledge that most security designers don't have. Uncle Wesley shook his head. When I was your age, I was already managing my own real estate developments, not answering calls from people who can't remember their passwords. That stung, but what hurt more was seeing my parents nod in agreement. Even they had expected more from me by now. As the evening wore on, I felt increasingly isolated. My younger sister Jenna was the only one who seemed genuinely interested in my work, asking thoughtful questions about cybersecurity when the older family members moved to the living room for after-dinner drinks. The real breakthrough at my job came about a month after that disastrous Thanksgiving. While helping a client implement our security solution, I noticed a pattern in the error logs that didn't make sense. After digging deeper, I discovered a vulnerability in how our software handled certain encrypted connections, a flaw that sophisticated attackers could potentially exploit. I documented the issue carefully and brought it to my manager's attention. To my surprise, he immediately escalated it to the head of product security, who confirmed it was a significant find. This could have gone undetected for months, the security director told me. You have good instincts. For the first time since starting the job, I felt validated. This wasn't just answering phones, this was meaningful security work that protected our clients. I was even invited to sit in on meetings with the development team as they created a patch for the vulnerability. I couldn't wait to share this development with my family. Maybe now they'd understand the value of my position. The annual 4th of July family reunion at Uncle Wesley's lakeside estate had been a tradition since before I was born. This year, I arrived feeling cautiously optimistic. The security vulnerability I'd discovered had led to a small promotion and recognition within my company. I wasn't just in tech support anymore, I was officially a security analyst, though I still handled support cases to stay connected to client issues. The estate was as impressive as always. Sprawling green lawns, a boat dock with several watercraft, and a colonial-style mansion overlooking it all. Luxury cars filled the circular driveway, BMWs, Mercedes. And my cousin Douglas's new Porsche, which he made sure everyone noticed. "Nice ride," I commented as we unloaded our cars. "Perks of closing that hedge fund deal last month," Douglas replied, buffing an imaginary smudge from the hood. "What are you driving these days?" "Still the Honda," I said, nodding toward my practical but aging Civic. "It gets me where I need to go." Douglas smirked. "I'm sure it does." Inside, the house buzzed with relatives catching up, drinks flowing freely, and staff preparing an elaborate barbecue. I found my parents chatting with Aunt Barbara in the sunroom. "Garrett, there you are," my mother said, kissing my cheek. "We were just telling Barbara about your promotion." "Promotion?" Uncle Wesley appeared, holding a tumbler of bourbon. "What's this about?" I straightened my shoulders. "I've been moved to the security analysis team. After I found a critical vulnerability in our flagship product." "So you're not answering phones anymore?" he asked, eyebrow raised. "I still handle some support cases. But I'm also working directly with the development team on security architecture now." Wesley exchanged glances with my aunt. "Well, it's a step up, I suppose." Before I could respond, Douglas joined the conversation. "Hey everyone, just found out I'm being considered for junior partner next year. Youngest in the firm's history." And just like that, the attention shifted. As everyone congratulated Douglas, I slipped away to get a drink. This was the pattern at every family gathering, my achievements minimized, while my cousins were celebrated lavishly. Later, as everyone gathered on the patio for dinner, Uncle Wesley stood to make his usual toast. After praising various family members for their accomplishments, Douglas's potential partnership, my cousin Rachel's medical residency, my sister Jenna's law school acceptance, he paused. "And Garrett here has moved up from answering phones to, what was it again, nephew?" "Security analysis," I said, feeling my face flush. Right. Computer stuff." He waved vaguely. "Speaking of which, can you take a look at my laptop later? The email's been acting funny." Laughter rippled through the gathering. Even my father chuckled. Something inside me snapped. I'd spent years being the family joke, and I was done. "Actually, Uncle Wesley, I analyze critical security vulnerabilities that protect major companies from data breaches that could cost them millions. I don't fix email problems." The table went silent. Wesley's smile faded. "No need to get defensive. I was just making conversation." "No, you were belittling my career like you always do." The words flowed out before I could stop them. "Do you have any idea what cybersecurity actually entails? Or how important it is? Companies lose billions every year to hackers and data breaches." "Garrett," my father warned. But I was beyond stopping. "I'm tired of my work being treated as a joke when what I do protects people's finances, identities, and personal information. The vulnerability I found could have compromised data for thousands of clients." Uncle Wesley's face hardened. "Listen, boy. I built a real business that employs hundreds of people and owns actual assets. Playing with computers all day isn't a career to brag about." "Playing with computers?" I laughed incredulously. "Technology runs everything now, including your precious real estate empire. Without people like me, your business would be vulnerable to attacks that could drain your accounts overnight." Wesley stood abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the stone patio. "An own nephew of mine works in tech support," he shouted, face reddening. "You think you're so smart with your computer jargon, but you're just hiding behind a screen because you can't hack it in the real business world. The entire family watched in shocked silence. "I'm not hiding from anything," I said, standing to face him. "I'm pursuing work that matters to me, that I'm good at, and that has real value. I'm sorry that doesn't fit your narrow definition of success." "That's enough." Wesley slammed his hand on the table. "I've listened to your excuses for years. If you want to waste your potential, you won't do it under my roof. This isn't even my home." I replied, confused. "No, but it's my family gathering, and I want you out. Now. Come back when you've grown up and gotten a respectable job." I looked around the table, waiting for someone, anyone, to defend me. My mother stared at her plate. My father looked uncomfortable but silent. Only Jenna met my eyes with sympathy. "Fine," I said finally, tossing my napkin onto the table. "Enjoy your respectable careers and your superficial definitions of success." I turned and walked toward the house to collect my things, heart pounding with a mixture of rage and humiliation. As I packed my overnight bag, there was a soft knock at the guest room door. It was my mother, her eyes damp. "Garrett, please apologize to your uncle. You know how he gets when he's been drinking." "I'm not apologizing for defending my choices," I said, zipping my bag. "Why couldn't you or Dad stand up for me, just once?" She pressed a folded check into my hand. "Take this. Just until you figure things out." I almost refused it but realized I might need the money. My apartment lease in Cambridge was ending, and I'd been counting on staying with my parents for a week while finding a new place. "Thanks," I said stiffly, pocketing the check without looking at the amount. As I walked to my car, Jenna ran out to hug me goodbye. "They're wrong about you," she whispered. "Do something amazing and prove it to them." I hugged her back, grateful for the one person who seemed to believe in me. That night, I slept in my car at a rest stop, too proud to call friends for help so late. As I watched the sunrise through my windshield, I made a decision. I was done seeking approval from people who would never understand my passion. From now on, I would build something on my own terms. The week after being thrown out of my uncle's house was one of the hardest of my life. With my apartment lease ending and most of my savings tied up in student loan payments, I was facing homelessness. Pride kept me from calling my parents, who had chosen silence over support when it mattered most. Eventually, I swallowed my pride and called Ryan Thompson, my friend from MIT who was working for a startup in Boston. "Stay with me until you figure things out," he offered immediately. "My couch isn't comfortable, but it's better than your car." Ryan's apartment was tiny, a one-bedroom in a converted factory building in Somerville. The industrial pipes and exposed brick might have seemed trendy if they weren't accompanied by temperamental plumbing and unreliable heating. "It's not much." Ryan apologized as he cleared textbooks off the couch that would become my bed. "It's perfect," I said, meaning it. The cramped space felt more welcoming than my uncle's mansion ever had. That night, over cheap takeout and cheaper beer, I told Ryan everything that had happened. "Your uncle sounds like a real piece of work," Ryan said when I finished. "But maybe this is a blessing in disguise." "How exactly is being homeless and disowned a blessing?" Ryan grinned. "Because now you've got nothing to lose. Remember that security protocol we were developing in senior year? The one that could predict and counter zero-day exploits?" I nodded. "We'd designed a theoretical framework but abandoned it after graduation when life pulled us in different directions. What if we actually built it?" Ryan's eyes lit up with the familiar excitement I remembered from late-night coding sessions. "I've been thinking about it, and with your discovery at SecureNet, we might have the missing piece to make it work." For the first time since the disaster at my uncle's, I felt a spark of hope. Our concept had been ambitious, perhaps too ambitious for two undergrads, but with what I'd learned in the field, we might actually have a shot. The next day, I went to work determined to keep my personal problems separate from my professional life. But by lunchtime, my manager called me into his office. "Garrett, I just got a strange call from Wesley Mitchell. He says he's your uncle and was calling to verify your employment. My stomach dropped. What did you tell him? Nothing, of course. That would violate HR policies. But he seemed very interested in confirming whether you were just in tech support or had actual security credentials. I sighed. My uncle doesn't respect my career choice. He thinks tech support is beneath an MIT graduate. My manager frowned. Well, for what it's worth, I think your uncle is dead wrong. You've shown more insight into security vulnerabilities in 9 months than some analysts do in years. His words were encouraging, but the damage was done. Uncle Wesley was actively trying to undermine me, probably hoping I'd come crawling back if my job prospects seemed dire enough. That evening, fueled by determination and spite, Ryan and I began working on our security protocol in earnest. We called it Predictive Defense Framework, a system designed to analyze patterns in network traffic to identify potential exploits before they could be fully deployed. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. I maintained my job at SecureNet, learning everything I could about current security systems and their weaknesses. Nights and weekends were dedicated to our project. Ryan's couch became a permanent bed, and his small dining table transformed into our workstation, covered in notebooks, sketches, and empty coffee cups. The only family member who stayed in touch was Jenna, who sent occasional texts checking on me. I kept my responses vague, not wanting her caught in the middle of the family drama. Uncle W asked about you at Sunday dinner, she texted one night. Mom changed the subject. I didn't reply. What could I say? That I was sleeping on a couch and working 16-hour days between my job and our startup idea? That would only confirm what my uncle already believed, that I was failing. For months after moving in with Ryan, we had a working prototype of our security system. It wasn't perfect, but initial tests showed promise. It could detect unusual patterns that might indicate novel attack vectors before they fully manifested. The problem was, we needed resources to develop it further, servers, testing environments, and most importantly, time. We were both exhausted from maintaining full-time jobs while building our system nights and weekends. We need funding, Ryan said one Sunday as we debugged a particularly tricky component. Even just enough so one of us could work on this full-time. Who's going to fund two nobodies with an unproven security concept? I asked, rubbing my tired eyes. There's a startup pitch competition next month at Tech Hub Boston. First prize is $50,000 and mentorship. It seemed like a long shot, but we had nothing to lose. We spent the next 4 weeks refining our pitch, practicing in front of Ryan's bathroom mirror, and fine-tuning our demo to show maximum impact in minimal time. The day of the competition, my stomach was in knots. Most of the other teams had established products, some already with customers. We had a concept, a prototype, and desperation. When our turn came, I stepped onto the small stage and faced a panel of judges, successful entrepreneurs and investors who looked thoroughly unimpressed before I'd said a word. Imagine a security system that doesn't just react to attacks, but predicts them, I began. Current cybersecurity is like a castle with guards who only respond after someone's scaling the walls. We're creating guards who can spot the army while it's still assembling on the horizon. I could see one judge lean forward slightly, an older man with silver hair and intense eyes. For the next 5 minutes, Ryan and I tag-teamed our presentation, showing how our system had identified patterns from previously unknown exploits using historical data. When the judges asked questions, the silver-haired man, who introduced himself as Marcus Winters, pressed us hardest. You're claiming to predict attacks that don't exist yet. That sounds like science fiction. Not predicting specific attacks, I clarified. Predicting patterns of behavior that indicate a novel attack vector is being explored. Think of it as identifying the footprints of someone walking around your house, looking for unlocked windows. We didn't win first prize. We came in third, which included a modest $10. 000 award but no mentorship. As we were packing up our demo equipment, Marcus Winters approached us. "Your concept is either brilliant or delusional," he said bluntly. "I can't decide which yet. But I'm intrigued enough to want to find out." Marcus, it turned out, had founded one of the first internet security companies in the 1990s and had been an angel investor for the past decade, focusing exclusively on cybersecurity startups. "Send me your technical documentation," he said, handing me his card. "If it holds up, we should talk." 2 weeks later, after grueling technical reviews and questioning, Marcus offered us seed funding, $200,000 in exchange for 15% equity in our company. "It's enough for both of you to work on this full-time for a year," he said. "Prove the concept works with real-world testing, and I'll help you raise a proper round." That night, I gave notice at SecureNet, effective immediately. It was time to go all in on our vision. We named our company ShieldCore and rented a small office space, really just a room with a bathroom, in a building full of other startups in Cambridge. Our team consisted of just Ryan and me at first, but with Marcus's connections, we soon added Zoe Chin, a brilliant network security specialist who believed in our vision. The next 6 months were the most challenging and exhilarating of my life. We worked around the clock, refining algorithms, testing against simulated attacks, and gradually building something that actually worked. The breakthrough came when we correctly identified a vulnerability pattern in a popular e-commerce platform 3 days before it was publicly disclosed. Marcus was impressed enough to introduce us to potential clients, mostly small companies at first, willing to try our solution alongside their existing security. My personal life remained sparse. I had moved from Ryan's couch to a small studio apartment, but I spent so little time there it hardly mattered. ShieldCore became my life, my identity, and my redemption all in one. By the 1-year mark since being thrown out of my uncle's house, we had 12 paying clients, a team of 6, and growing industry buzz. I hadn't spoken to my family since that July day, though Jenna still sent occasional updates. My parents had tried calling a few times, but I let the calls go to voicemail, not ready to face their half-hearted support. I was no longer the family disappointment working in tech support. I was a founder and CEO of a promising security startup. But more importantly, I was building something I believed in, surrounded by people who shared my vision and respected my expertise. Uncle Wesley had done me a favor after all, though not in the way he intended. By cutting me off, he had freed me from seeking his approval, and that freedom had led me exactly where I needed to be. The real turning point for ShieldCore came 18 months after our founding, in a way none of us could have predicted. One of our clients, a mid-sized financial services company, experienced what initially looked like a routine probing of their network. Most security systems would have logged it as normal reconnaissance, the digital equivalent of rattling doorknobs to see if any were unlocked. But our predictive defense framework flagged it with a high-risk designation, identifying patterns that suggested a sophisticated preparation for a targeted attack. "Your system is being paranoid," their IT director told us when we called to alert them. "We get hundreds of these probes every day. This one's different," I insisted, walking him through the subtle patterns our system had detected. "The approach vectors, the timing, the way it's mapping specific parts of your infrastructure, it's methodical and patient. We think you're being targeted for a major breach." Reluctantly, the IT director agreed to implement the additional protective measures we recommended, more to humor us than out of genuine concern. 3 days later, their industry was rocked by a massive coordinated attack that compromised 4 of their competitors, resulting in stolen customer data and tens of millions in damages. Our client remained untouched. "How did you know?" the IT director asked when he called, his voice shaking slightly. "Nothing in the attack patterns matched any known threats." "That's exactly what our system is designed to do," I explained. Identify the unknown by recognizing subtle indicators of malicious intent before it materializes into a specific attack. The word spread quickly through the financial technology community. Within a month, our client list tripled. Within 3 months, we were approached by a major venture capital firm offering series of funding, $8 million for a 20% stake, valuing our company at $40 million. Marcus advised us to take the deal. You need capital to scale, and these guys have the connections to get you into enterprise-level clients. The funding allowed us to move to proper offices in downtown Boston, expand our team to 20 people, and enhance our infrastructure to handle larger clients. I hired a COO with experience scaling security companies, allowing Ryan and me to focus on continued innovation of our core technology. As our company grew, so did my confidence. The nervous MIT graduate who had sat silently while his uncle berated his career choice was gone. In his place was a CEO who spoke at industry conferences, led client meetings with Fortune 500 companies, and was increasingly recognized as an innovative voice in cybersecurity. One evening, as I was working late in our new offices, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Is this Garrett Mitchell?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, this is Garrett. My name is Sophia Reynolds. I'm a technology reporter with Forbes. I'm working on a feature about innovative approaches to cybersecurity, and your company's name keeps coming up." My heart raced. Forbes was mainstream recognition in a way that industry accolades weren't. "I'd love to talk to you about ShieldCore's approach," Sophia continued, "particularly your predictive model. It's quite different from what established players are doing." We scheduled an interview for the following week. Before hanging up, Sophia added casually, "By the way, you might be interested to know we're also starting to research candidates for next year's 30 Under 30 in enterprise technology. ShieldCore seems like the kind of innovation we look for." After the call, I sat in my office, staring out at the Boston skyline. 3 years earlier, I had been answering support calls and sleeping in my car after family gatherings. Now I was being interviewed by Forbes and mentioned as a possible 30 Under 30 candidate. The interview with Sophia went well, resulting in ShieldCore being featured prominently in an article titled, "The Future of Cybersecurity, Prediction over Prevention." The exposure brought another wave of interest from potential clients and investors. More importantly, it put us on the radar for Forbes 30 Under 30 consideration. The vetting process was intense. Multiple interviews, background checks on the company's technology and finances, and discussions with clients and industry experts about our impact. Through it all, I maintained radio silence with my family. Jenna had graduated from law school and occasionally sent updates, but I had asked her not to share details about my life with the rest of the family. Part of me wanted to succeed completely on my own before facing them again. "Don't you think it's time to reconnect?" Ryan asked one night as we celebrated landing a contract with our first Fortune 100 client. "You've more than proven yourself. It's not about proving anything anymore," I said, though we both knew that wasn't entirely true. "I'm just not ready to let them back into my life." 6 months after our Forbes feature, ShieldCore closed its Series B funding round, $30 million at a $300 million valuation. Our team had grown to 50 people. Our client list included some of the largest companies in finance, healthcare, and retail, and our technology had prevented several major breach attempts that might have compromised millions of people's data. Then came the email I had simultaneously hoped for and dreaded. "Dear Mr. Mitchell, congratulations. We are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for the Forbes 30 Under 30 list in enterprise technology. The official announcement wouldn't come for another month, but the Forbes team wanted to schedule a photo shoot and final interview." As I forwarded the email to our PR director, I felt a strange mixture of vindication and emptiness. I had achieved what I'd set out to do, built a successful company based on technology one believed in, earned respect in my field, and now received recognition that even my status-obsessed family couldn't dismiss. But the people I had most wanted to prove wrong weren't there to see it. That night, I did something I hadn't done in nearly 3 years. I Googled my uncle's real estate company. The website showed Wesley's smiling face on the About Us page, alongside announcements of recent property acquisitions. He was still successful, still expanding his empire of physical assets while I built my empire of digital security. The Forbes 30 Under 30 list was published on a Tuesday in January. By Wednesday morning, ShieldCore's valuation had unofficially crossed into unicorn territory, over $1 billion, as investors scrambled to get in on our next funding round. My phone began ringing with congratulatory calls from industry colleagues, clients, and journalists seeking follow-up interviews. But one call, coming in late Thursday evening, made my blood run cold. The caller ID showed Barbara Mitchell, my aunt's name. For a moment, I considered not answering. But curiosity won out. "Hello?" I said cautiously. "Garrett?" "It's your Aunt Barbara." Her voice sounded exactly the same, poised and slightly imperious. I just saw the most extraordinary thing in Forbes magazine. I remained silent, waiting. "Why didn't you tell us you're a cybersecurity billionaire?" she asked, her tone a mixture of disbelief and calculated warmth. I almost laughed at the exaggeration. "We're not quite billionaires yet, Aunt Barbara. The company valuation just crossed $1 billion. That's different from personal wealth." "Well, it's still extremely impressive," she continued smoothly. "Wesley and I are hosting our annual summer gathering next month, and we'd love for you to attend. The whole family has been wondering how you've been. 3 years of absence. And now they wanted me back, not because they missed me or regretted their treatment, but because I was successful in a way they finally understood." "I'll think about it," I said neutrally. "Please do," she pressed. "Your uncle would be particularly pleased to see you." I bet he would, I thought as I hung up. The question was, did I want to see him? For weeks after my aunt's call, I debated whether to attend the family gathering. Part of me wanted to show up in an expensive suit, maybe arrive in a luxury car, and watch their faces as they realized how wrong they'd been. Another part wanted to maintain my distance, preserving the independence I'd fought so hard to achieve. "You should go," Ryan advised during lunch at our company cafeteria. "Not for them, but for yourself. Get closure. Or you could just send them a signed copy of Forbes with a glitter bomb," suggested Zoe, our security specialist, only half joking. In the end, I decided to go, but on my terms. I would drive my same reliable Honda, wear clothes I felt comfortable in, and bring Ryan as moral support. His presence would remind me of who had actually been there during the difficult times. As we pulled into Uncle Wesley's circular driveway, I noticed the property seemed even more ostentatious than I remembered. A new fountain dominated the center of the drive, and renovations had clearly been done to the east wing of the house. "Compensating for something?" Ryan muttered, eyeing the fountain. I laughed, feeling some of my tension dissolve. "Probably declining commercial real estate values." The moment we stepped through the front door, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations paused, heads turned, and suddenly everyone was very interested in the weather, the catering, or the gardening, anything to avoid the awkwardness of acknowledging my presence after 3 years of absence. Aunt Barbara swooped in, air-kissing both cheeks. "Garrett, darling! You look wonderful. And who is this?" "This is Ryan Thompson, my co-founder and friend," I said. "Ryan, my Aunt Barbara. The MIT roommate. How lovely you've stayed in touch," Barbara said. As if Ryan had been mentioned in family conversations when I knew perfectly well he hadn't. "Come, everyone's out on the terrace." As we followed her through the house, I noticed subtle changes, new artwork, updated furniture, all calculated to display wealth and taste. Some things never changed. On the terrace, familiar faces turned toward us, cousins, distant relatives, family friends who'd known me since childhood. My parents stood near the railing, my mother's face a mixture of relief and apprehension. Jenna broke away from a conversation and hurried over, throwing her arms around me. "You came," she whispered, squeezing tight. "I was afraid you wouldn't." "Almost didn't," I admitted, hugging her back. And then, parting the crowd like Moses at the Red Sea, came Uncle Wesley. He looked older than I remembered, his hair grayer, his face more lined. But his stance still conveyed absolute confidence in his own importance. "The prodigal nephew returns," he said, extending his hand. "Congratulations on your success, Garrett. Always knew you had it in you." The audacity nearly took my breath away. Always knew? The man who had thrown me out for being in tech support now claimed he'd always believed in me? I shook his hand briefly. "Thank you. Must say, I didn't quite understand what you were trying to do back then," he continued smoothly. "But clearly you had a vision the rest of us couldn't see." The mark of a true entrepreneur. Around us, family members nodded approvingly, as if Wesley was generously bestowing his blessing on my achievements. "You didn't understand because you never bothered to listen," I said, keeping my voice even. "You were too busy telling me I was wasting my potential." A flicker of annoyance crossed his face. "Water under the bridge. The important thing is you've made something of yourself. Created real value." "I created the same value 3 years ago," I replied. "The only difference is now it has a dollar figure attached that you can understand." The terrace went quiet. Ryan shifted slightly beside me, a subtle reminder of his support. "Now, Garrett," my father interjected, "let's not dwell on the past. We're all proud of what you've accomplished." "Are you?" I asked, turning to face him. "Because none of you seemed proud when I was working 80-hour weeks learning the security industry from the ground up. None of you called to check if I was okay after I was thrown out of this house. None of you stood up for me when it mattered." My mother stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "We should have. We know that now. We just didn't understand." "You didn't try to understand," I corrected her. "There's a difference." Uncle Wesley cleared his throat. "Perhaps we could have a private conversation, Garrett. Man to man?" "I don't think so," I replied. "Anything you have to say, you can say in front of everyone, just like when you humiliated me in front of everyone." Wesley's face hardened. "Fine. I admit I was harsh. I didn't see the potential in your chosen field. I was wrong. Is that what you want to hear?" "What I want," I said slowly, "is for you to understand that your definition of success isn't universal. That real estate isn't inherently more valuable than technology. That the way you treated me, the way this family has always treated anyone who steps outside the approved career paths, is arrogant and short-sighted." Cousin Douglas, standing nearby with a drink in hand, snorted. "Bit dramatic, aren't you? Uncle Wesley just wanted what was best for you." "No, he wanted what would look best to his friends and business associates," I countered. "There's a difference there, too." I turned back to Wesley. "I didn't come here for an apology or validation. I came to make peace with the past so I can move forward. But making peace doesn't mean pretending everything was fine." For a moment, Wesley looked genuinely taken aback. Perhaps no one had spoken to him this directly in years. "You've changed," he said finally. "Yes," I agreed. "That tends to happen when you're forced to rely entirely on yourself." A server approached with a tray of champagne, providing a welcome break in the tension. As glasses were distributed, my aunt quickly seized the opportunity. "I think a toast is in order," she announced. "To Garrett's tremendous success." Glasses raised around the terrace. I accepted one but didn't drink. "If you're toasting my success now," I said quietly, "you should acknowledge that it came despite this family's support, not because of it." After that confrontation, the gathering fragmented into smaller, less loaded conversations. Ryan and I found ourselves cornered by various relatives. all suddenly fascinated by cybersecurity and startup culture. Later, my parents approached me alone. "We're truly sorry, Garrett," my father said, his usual confidence subdued. "We should have supported you regardless of Wesley's opinions. We were wrong," my mother added, squeezing my arm. "And we've missed you terribly." Their apology felt genuine, if overdue. "I miss you too," I admitted. "But I needed the space to build something on my own terms." "We understand that now," my father said. "And we're so proud of what you've created." "Not because of the recognition or the money, but because you followed your passion and proved yourself right. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation, but it was a start. With Jenna, things were easier. She had always been in my corner, even silently. We promised to have dinner soon, just the two of us, to properly catch up. As for Uncle Wesley, we maintained a cool civility for the remainder of the evening. He made no further attempts at private conversation, seeming to recognize that our relationship had fundamentally changed. I was no longer the nephew seeking approval but an equal, perhaps even a superior in the metric he valued most, financial success. As Ryan and I prepared to leave, Aunt Barbara pressed a business card into my hand. "One of Wesley's associates is having cybersecurity issues with his new development project," she said. "Perhaps your company could help?" I smiled, recognizing the olive branch for what it was. "Have him call our sales team. We'll treat him like any other potential client." "Of course." She nodded, understanding the boundary I was setting. Driving away from the estate, Ryan turned to me. "Was it worth it?" I considered the question carefully. "Yes," I said finally. "Not for the satisfaction of proving them wrong, though that didn't hurt, but for the chance to close that chapter without bitterness. I don't need their approval anymore. And that's incredibly freeing." "So what's next for the famous Garrett Mitchell?" Ryan asked, grinning. "Same as before," I replied. "Building something that matters, regardless of who understands it." As we drove back toward Boston, I felt lighter than I had in years. The family reunion hadn't gone as anyone expected, least of all me. There had been no dramatic reconciliation, no falling into each other's arms with tearful apologies. Instead, there had been honesty, boundaries, and the beginning of a new, more equal relationship. I had walked into my uncle's house not as the prodigal nephew returning in shame, but as my own person, successful by any measure, but most importantly, successful on my own terms. A year after the confrontation at my uncle's estate, ShieldCore had become the industry standard in predictive cybersecurity. Our client list included over 60% of Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and major international organizations. Our team had grown to over 200 people, with offices in Boston, San Francisco, and London. The validation from Forbes 30 Under 30 had opened doors, but what really drove our growth was the effectiveness of our technology. In an era of increasingly sophisticated cyber threats, our predictive approach had proven itself time and again, preventing attacks that might have cost billions in damages and compromised countless people's personal data. My relationship with my family had slowly healed, not to what it had been before, but to something new and perhaps healthier. My parents and I spoke regularly now, and they had visited our Boston headquarters, genuinely interested in understanding what we did. The pride in their eyes as they watched me lead a company meeting was worth more than any Forbes recognition. Uncle Wesley and I maintained a cordial but distant relationship. He had referred several business associates to ShieldCore, and we had secured their contracts through our normal sales process. No special treatment, no discounts, just excellent service. It was a relationship based on mutual respect rather than familial obligation, and that suited me fine. The experience had changed me in profound ways. The insecure MIT graduate desperate for family approval had become a confident leader comfortable making decisions that affected thousands of people. The humiliation of being thrown out had been transformed into resilience and self-reliance. One morning, as I reviewed applications for our new cybersecurity scholarship program. I came across a familiar pattern: a young woman whose family disapproved of her interest in ethical hacking, who had taught herself coding despite lack of support, whose personal statement burned with the same passion for security that had driven me. I want to establish 5 more scholarships specifically for students who lack family support, I told our education outreach director. Let's find the outliers, the ones whose potential others don't see. The program became one of our most successful initiatives, identifying talented individuals who might otherwise have been overlooked and providing not just financial assistance but mentorship and internship opportunities. Many of these scholars eventually joined Shield Corps, bringing fresh perspectives and approaches that strengthened our technology. At our annual company retreat, I shared the story of my journey, from tech support to Forbes 30 Under 30, from family rejection to founding a unicorn company. I had never told the full story to our team before, always keeping my personal history separate from my professional identity. The most important lesson I learned, I concluded, wasn't about technology or business strategy. It was about staying true to your vision even when the people you most want to believe in you don't. It was about finding a community that values your contribution for what it is, not what others think it should be. After my talk, several team members shared similar stories of being underestimated, of pursuing paths that friends or family didn't understand. Our shared experiences created a deeper bond within the company, reinforcing our culture of valuing innovation over convention, substance over appearance. The truth was, my uncle had inadvertently given me a precious gift that day he threw me out. He had freed me from the exhausting effort of trying to win approval from people who would never truly understand or value my choices. That freedom had allowed me to pour all my energy into building something meaningful, surrounded by people who shared my vision. Ryan, now our CTO, had been there from the beginning, from dorm room coding sessions to sleeping on his couch after being disowned, from our first pitch competition to our international expansion. His friendship had been a constant when everything else was uncertain. We should start an incubator, he suggested one evening as we looked out over Boston from our office rooftop. Find other tech outcasts with good ideas and give them the support we didn't have. The idea resonated immediately. We had the resources now to help others avoid some of the hardships we'd faced, to provide not just funding but guidance and a supportive community. My sister Jenna, now a successful attorney specializing in technology law, occasionally provided legal advice to our scholarship recipients and incubator participants. She had become a bridge between my past and present, maintaining connections with our extended family while fully supporting my independent path. Uncle Wesley actually asked about your incubator idea, she mentioned during one of our monthly dinners. I think he's genuinely impressed, though he'd never say it directly. I smiled. Some things never change. But some things do, she countered. You've changed him, even if just a little. He's less dismissive of tech careers now, especially after your security team helped his company recover from that ransomware attempt. It was true. When Uncle Wesley's real estate firm had been targeted by hackers, he had swallowed his pride and called me directly. Our team had not only stopped the attack but strengthened their systems against future attempts. The experience had given him a new appreciation for what we did, protecting real assets in the digital realm. As I look back now on the journey from that humiliating 4th of July to where I am today, I realize that success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right, about having the courage to follow your passion and the perseverance to turn it into something valuable. The family that once dismissed me as a tech support loser now proudly mentions my achievements to their friends. The uncle who threw me out now refers clients to my company. But their validation, while satisfying, isn't what drives me anymore. What drives me is the knowledge that our work protects people's data, privacy, and security in an increasingly vulnerable digital world. If you're watching this and feeling underestimated or misunderstood in your own pursuits, remember that other people's limitations shouldn't become your own. The path less traveled is often harder, lonelier, and filled with doubt, but it can also lead to innovations and opportunities that others can't imagine. Have you ever had someone dismiss your dreams or tell you that your passion wasn't worthwhile? How did you respond? Drop a comment below and share your story. I read every comment and find inspiration in your experiences. And if you enjoyed this journey from rejection to redemption, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about finding success on your own terms. Remember, sometimes the people who don't believe in you are the ones who motivate you to achieve things beyond even your own expectations. Thank you for watching. And never let someone else's narrow definition of success limit what you know you can accomplish.